What's going on, everyone? So, it appears that there may be some interest from the Los Angeles Lakers on potentially trading for a Zach Lavine as we move closer to the trade deadline, even maybe around December 15th. Nothing is likely going to happen until December 15th, but Lakers are kind of weighing, engaging. They've been linked to Brandon Ingram a lot heavily recently. Zach Lavine is now, he's been linked to the Lakers since last trade deadline, right? There was rumors and talks about them potentially going after him. Several of the Nets players, you got the Jazz, right? There's a lot of options that the Lakers are kind of weighing and are going to take their time to figure out. Now, problem is, us as Laker fans, we're kind of like, hey, we're watching this team sink like a sinking ship, and it's like we could use a trade sooner rather than later. Now, just because the 15th is like, week away, 10 days away, whatever, right? Like, doesn't mean that it's going to happen on the 15th. That's just kind of like the, unofficial trade season, like the beginning of that. You start seeing trades, 87% of the league becomes available on December 15th, and then the rest become available on January. But, you kind of can make the first moves, kind of make the beginning stages, right? You saw it like in a couple seasons ago with Rui. They got the Rui trade, and then once they got to the trade deadline, boom, you got the big trade for Russell Westbrook and all that stuff. But so I could see the Lakers kind of making that kind of minor move, that minor trade. But look, Zach Lavine is a guy that I've been heavy on. I just think he helps and solves so much, right? Lakers need several pieces. Like, I don't think a Walker Kessler by himself. Boom, that's what we need. Or like a Walker Kessler and a Dorian Finney-Smith. Like, does that make us better? Yes. I think either A, we need kind of that big ceiling raiser guy, a Brandon Ingram, a Zach Lavine, somebody like that, Trae Young if he becomes available, right? Like somebody that can really kind of just raise the ceiling by themselves. And then like two kind of like mid-tier guys. Or I think if you can't get that big ceiling raiser, you need to get 3 or 4 mid-tier guys, right? Talk about it. Don't underestimate the value of what 2-3 guys can do. I mean, look at, again, sticking to a couple seasons ago, you had Rui Hachimura, D'Angelo Russell, and Jared Vanderbilt really kind of step in and play big roles, and they were huge for us, particularly on those playoff runs. I know D'Angelo Russell playoff resume isn't great, but he was really good in the previous series. It was that Denver series that really hurt us. I mean, he saved us in that Memphis Grizzlies series. I mean, literally saved us. And so, you saw the tides change. 2-10 season, it looks like an absolute mess to boom, now we're playoff team where we're in the conference finals. Yeah, we got ran through by Denver, but those pieces really kind of changed the tide for the Lakers, right? So Dallas, another great example, right? They go get Daniel Gafford. They go get P.J. Washington. They were a team that was questionable. It's like, are they going to really be a play-in team again or miss the play-in entirely? And then they go get those two pieces. Nobody looks at Daniel Gafford and P.J. Washington as these like huge ceiling raisers, but collectively, plus the emergence of a Derrick Jones Jr., kind of his defense and him coming into his own, changed the tide for that team. So I do think that the Lakers aren't that far. I know at times it feels like it. I know at times it seems like that. But you kind of also get this like sense of like just defeat, and you get some fresh blood. You get some fresh players that just they haven't been dealing with the issues. I talked about that again a couple seasons ago. I think Zach Lavine is probably the biggest ceiling. He's the guy that I think is the best fit, right? You could argue, Brandon Ingram, maybe gives you a little more versatility, right, as far as like position sake goes, and maybe defending out on the perimeter. Like with his size and his length, he's got like a 7'3" wingspan, essentially defend 1 through 5 on many nights, right? But like Zach Lavine, I don't question his fit. He's really good off ball, really good on ball, right? He can be that bucket getter. He's got the athleticism, applies the rim pressure, right? Defensively, he is a good defender. He has this reputation of being this bad defender, which I don't know where it comes from because he's not. And I mean, even if you go look it up, like if you take 10 seconds to Google search, like, how good of a defender Zach Lavine is, you'll see that he's either around league average or better pretty much every season, right? So again, he'd immediately be our third best defensive player. That shows how bad this defensive team is, or this team is defensively. But Zach Lavine is a guy that I just think slots in seamlessly with LeBron, with AD. People are worried about his salary, right? salary cap is supposed to increase, and LeBron James is willing to take a discount. He's willing to take a discount this past offseason, right? He's willing to take $20 million less to go bring in, a Klay Thompson or a DeMar DeRozan or a Jonas Valanciunas, right? Like, you don't think he would do the same thing for Zach Lavine to go get another piece or two? Or you don't think he'd do the same thing to go get that quality guy that to really kind of push us for contention? Or if we win the championship this year, you don't think he's going to do everything he can to go win his 6th title? Of course he is, right? Like, so I don't think it's that big of a concern, right? And if we win a championship with Zach Lavine, people are going to be like, but he's making $40 million. Like, what do we do? Like, no, everyone's going to be like, great decision, Rob, right? Like, it's one of those things that I do think he's the greatest ceiling. Now, again, I don't think Zach Lavine by himself were a contender. I do think, as far as like a singular trade goes, I do think Zach Lavine is the best option, right? If you're only trying to make one move, I think Zach Lavine is the best like single move. But I do think if you really want to get into contention, you need Zach Lavine plus a Dorian Finney-Smith and like a Day'Ron Sharpe or a Walker Kessler or something like you need those other pieces, right? Like I said, you get 2, 3, one high-end tier guy and then 1 or 2 kind of mid-tier guys. I think the Lakers are in different shape because it also drops the pecking order, right? So imagine Zach Lavine in the Austin Reeves role. Imagine how much better we would be with Zach Lavine in the Austin Reeves role, right? And now Austin Reeves drops down to the 4th guy. Now Dalton Knecht drops down to, 5th, 6th, 7th guy, right? Like, it drops guys down a tier. So now when Austin Reeves is cooking and he's just having one of those nights, you're winning all those games, all, right? And when he has a game where he's like struggling and he doesn't have it tonight, you're probably still winning most of them, right? Obviously, we need defense pressure, which is why I want to go get a Dorian Finney-Smith. I want to go get these other pieces. I just think that if you're talking about a singular trade, now, if you could do like the full Brooklyn trade, then I've even said, like, I would prefer that. Like, if you could get Dennis Schroeder, Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, and Day'Ron Sharpe, I just think that package as a whole is just greater than just Zach Lavine plus, like, 1 or 2 guys. Because now you got point of attack guard and Dennis Schroeder. You got your, 3-and-D wing and Dorian Finney-Smith. You got your third option plus another 3-and-D wing and Cam Johnson, right? And then you got your backup center and Day'Ron Sharpe. If you could do some huge roster rehaul, and now basically you got your front end 8 guys, right? Because you got LeBron, AD, Austin Reeves, Dalton Knecht, and then you got Day'Ron Sharpe, Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, and then Dennis Schroeder, right? And then trickle in Christian Wood, or do you keep Max Christie, or like now you're like, oh wow, this team is a legit 8 to 10 guys deep. Like, so I would prefer that. And then, like, the last kind of thing was Zach Lavine. Like, people are worried about, like, the injury history, right? Again, outside of last season, again, simple Google search will answer that, right? He played 77 games the year before. He played 67 games. I think it was like 58 games, 60 games, right? You look at the 5 seasons prior to this last season, which he was supposed to finish the season, which if he did, he would have played, 55 games, something like that, somewhere in that ballpark. Top of my head, right? Like, so again, he's giving you 60 to 65 games a season, which is like every star in the league, right? So you're fine there. And then, people like worry about just like him, like, okay, our depth, right? Like, okay, you go get him. What about the depth? What about it? We don't have depth. Depth is great when they're there. Depth is great when you have pieces. Yeah, I would love to be 10, 12 guys deep, but we're not. So like, Are we really worried about getting rid of Gabe Vincent? Like, are we like, oh, but Zach Lavine, we have to give up Gabe Vincent, right? Like, oh, no, trade him, right? Like, really, the only 2 guys that you can argue are like you're really giving up is Rui Hachimura and D'Angelo Russell, which Zach Lavine is giving you more production than both those guys combined. Right? Like, so, I mean, just based on, like, what those 2 guys are giving you compared to Zach Lavine's giving you the same amount of production. Right? Like, but he's also more athletic than both. Right? He's a more explosive scorer than both. Applies better rim pressure than both. Right? Like, it's just, he's a guy that could go off. I mean, he played 25 games last season and still dropped the 50 piece. Like, the guy is just, it's fine. right? D'Lo, you're probably losing regardless, and D'Lo hasn't been great this year. It's not like D'Lo's been great. Even Rui has been very inconsistent this year, and he slotted out of position. You're not losing anything going and trading for Zach Lavine. It makes you better, right? But again, you've got to get at least another piece or two, ideally two. Right? It doesn't have to be like another high. Like, you don't need Brandon Ingram and Zach Lavine, but like if you can get a Zach Lavine and then go get like another either higher end guy, you know, like a Bruce Brown or something like that, or go get, I mean, look, if it was me, again, I don't think Austin Reeves is untradeable. I go get Bruce Brown, Dorian Finney-Smith, and then like a Day'Ron Sharpe, something like that, and trade everybody else. Right? Go do D'Lo, Rui, Gabe Vincent, and go get Zach Lavine. Then go trade, because Jalen Hood-Schifino essentially gets you to Day'Ron Sharpe or close to. I think it's a little shy, but you added another vet minimum guy. So Day'Ron Sharpe is a problem. You got to match like essentially $14 million for Dorian Finney-Smith, and then you got to do another $23 million. So you're talking 30, what we call it, $37 million to be safe, right? So you got Austin Reeves, who's making just shy of $13 million. You got Jared Vanderbilt, who's making $10 million, right? I think it's a little more than $10 million. Between the two of them, you're making, it's like 24, almost $25 million there. You could add in Max Christie, right? There's another $33 million, and then do like a Christian Wood or something like that. Boom, you're there. You're fine. And then now you got Bruce Brown with Zach Lavine. You go Dalton Connect if you wanted to, because you got Bruce Brown as point of attack, Zach Lavine has the athleticism, or you go with Cam Reddish for like the defensive versatility. You're fine, right? Like you got your 7-8 guys, or you go Dorian Finney-Smith in the starting lineup, right? If you wanted to, which I probably would. Like ideally, I would go like Bruce Brown, Zach Lavine, Dorian Finney-Smith, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. But I was just thinking, like, you could also bring Dorian Finney-Smith off the bench, just kind of have like that 3-and-D guy off the bench. But regardless, I just think the Lakers are in better shape. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you think Zach Lavine could potentially be a Laker? Do you think, no, stay away from him? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos. Truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.